YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with the biggest trade scenarios video you'll ever see. 24 trade scenarios used here. Every single team used at least one time. Some teams quite a few times here. A lot of realistic trades here. Some guys that are on the trading block we've heard rumors of recently or maybe a few weeks ago. And then some guys I think that actually could be, on the block soon, could be traded. Wouldn't surprise me at all. A lot of fits here, a lot to go over here in just a moment. We actually have extra content available on our Patreon. If you're new to the Goat House, we have all kinds of predictions. I do my score predictions here on YouTube, but if you want more score predictions, you go to the Patreon. Junior, the defending champs here at the Goat House, his score predictions are up every single week, along with my updated playoff predictions and updated NFL mock drafts every single week. That's all been updated for this week. So a lot going on at the Patreon. A lot going on here at YouTube. A lot going on at the Patreon. Patreon.com/thegoathouse. Link in the description to find out more info on that. 40K is our subscriber goal, so please help us out by subscribing. Full NFL, college football content all year long. In season, we got recaps, power rankings, predictions, score predictions, trade scenarios, plenty more here, so we got you covered. Please subscribe. Click the like button. Check us out on Twitter. First trade. This is a random order. 24 trades, random order. We'll loop back to some teams we've already talked about just to keep everybody entertained here. So I sent Jalen Ramsey to the Chiefs. Thought that made the most sense. If I did a couple Jalen Ramsey trade scenario videos in the past. I think the most recent one, I talked about the Chiefs should trade for him. If I'm in the front office over there in Kansas City, I trade for a guy like this. Yeah, the negative is you get his attitude, but I think as long as you're winning and the Chiefs are winning, he's happy. But mainly you have to dish out, somewhere close to $90 million maybe in just a year. He'll be a free agent after next year. And maybe he'll want that extension before then. So that's the only flaw there, and they're trying to, extend Mahomes, keep him happy. They have time to do that, though, and I think they can do both. Another, maybe negative is because it looks like they may need an offensive lineman now, so maybe they don't want to give up those first-round picks. They can easily find, linemen throughout the draft. It seems like there's more success on, linemen throughout the rest of the draft, so not too worried about that. I've been on record saying that if I'm the Chiefs, I would give up the 2 first-round picks for him because they're going to be late first-round picks, that's for sure, and you're probably going to draft a corner, maybe a lineman with those first-round picks anyways. Those corners and the offensive linemen are not proven in the first round. It takes time for the corners seem to come out of nowhere unless you're a guy like Jalen Ramsey. Stephon Gilmore was, a well-known guy, but didn't really start picking it up until, last year, really. He was solid before that, but you get my point. It takes time to develop a really good corner for the most part. You get a guy like Jalen Ramsey, the best corner in football, proven. He's going to continue to get better because he's still young. He can play multiple positions in the secondary, but which he would be playing corner. I think it makes too much sense. And there was a rumor that the Jaguars would take, the 2 first rounders and would give Jalen Ramsey for a second round pick. The Chiefs did not want to do that apparently, or the teams mentioned they could have been the Chiefs, the Jags, the Seahawks, whoever it was, or the Eagles, the Seahawks, whoever it was. They didn't want to do that, and that surprises me. So I don't see why, you get a third round back from the Jags, why you would not do that. This trade makes the most sense to me. The Chiefs need Jalen Ramsey here. They have the cap space to pay him long term. That's why the Chiefs make the most sense here. 2 first rounders, one this year, one next year for Jalen Ramsey and a third round pick. Great deal for both teams because you could see he doesn't want to play for the Jags. You see they're winning without him. Obviously, they're better with him. But that's the trade for Jalen Ramsey. It makes the most sense. We're only through one trade here. We got 23 more to go. Another corner, Patrick Peterson. Let's send him to the Eagles. The Eagles are highly involved in Jalen Ramsey. A little easier for the cap situation for the Chiefs. That's why I went with the Chiefs there. But the Cardinals are still in that rebuild process. They just got the new coach. They just got the new quarterback, bunch of new weapons everywhere. They need more guys so they can go that rebuild route even more. It's going to take time for them to build this up. So you can trade Patrick Peterson, who hasn't really been on the team because he's been suspended recently, or throughout the year, I should say, so far, but he will be back. So send him to the Eagles. They desperately need a corner. A first-round pick goes to the Cardinals. And, yeah, you may say, do you spend a first-round pick on a corner that, yeah, definitely is, I'd say, a top 3 corner in football when he's playing. but an aging corner, unlike Jalen Ramsey. And that's kind of the question. The Eagles, there's got to be some confidence here that the Eagles will have a late first-round pick, so it's a late, keep in mind, and also a fourth-round pick going back to the Eagles since they are giving up a high pick. But they desperately need this corner. The Eagles are an example on how hard it is to find legit corners. They have a bunch of guys that they're not bad. They're solid. Like Darby's solid. Rasul Douglas is solid. They have their moments where they're not so solid. Sidney Jones, Jalen Mills, those guys, they have their moments. They have their bad moments. It's so hard to find legit corners and develop them. So a team that's trying to win the Super Bowl now, next year, the year after that, you should be desperate for a guy like this, and it's okay to be desperate for a guy like this. You go get him. I mean, everything's got to clear out, medically or whatever he got suspended for exactly. But that obviously they'll do their homework. They'll make sure. So this trade makes a lot of sense here. To me, it helps the Eagles. That's what they need. Just like the Chiefs, both those teams are contenders. What do they need to take that next step? A corner. One of the hardest positions to play in football. Hard to find a proven guy. Hard to develop a guy. You get guys that are already polished, developed, ready to roll. Makes sense to me. First-round pick to the Cardinals, Patrick Peterson, and a fourth to the Eagles. Would love to see that happen. Next trade, love this one. I haven't heard anything about this one, but I love it. It makes a lot of sense. I'm going to say that a lot. I'm going to say a lot for a lot of these trades. Makes sense to me. A third-round pick to the Buccaneers. It was tough to decide the compensation on this one. O.J. Howard and a sixth-round pick to the Patriots. Why it's tough? Because O.J. Howard hasn't really lived up to the hype yet, especially this year. Almost non-existent this year. Very disappointing. But there still should be hype around this guy. There still should be a lot of potential. The guy's a freak. He should be a top tight end. Everybody, including the Bucs, will know if he goes to the Patriots, he will probably be a top tight end. Let's be honest here. So third-round pick may seem a little high for what people run to the stats. Don't run to the stats. I know he's struggling this year. Look at his potential. Look at his, the capabilities. Look at him. Picture him on the Patriots. Then tell me his value, okay? That's more than fair here. Third-round pick, and since you may think it's a little bit, and it may, the Patriots may, they try to get the best deal possible. They get a late-round pick in return. Honestly, if I'm the Patriots, I'd probably give up more than this. I'm just trying to figure out what's fair, so it's a tough one to figure out the compensation, but he'll end up being one of the better tight ends in football on the Patriots, so for that reason, I would give up more if I'm the Patriots. The Bucs, seems like, the Arians' comments, doesn't seem like he's thrilled with them. I don't think O.J. Howard's thrilled with himself or with the team. And the Buccaneers have Brate. They're under a new coach, like I said. They'll continue to build his team, not somebody else's team that they already tried to build there. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. You get the third-round pick. Gives you flexibility to move up and down in a draft if you need to, or you can just pick with that third-round pick. So that trade, once again, made a lot of sense. O.J. Howard, I picture on the Patriots. It's what they need. They don't, unless they think they're getting Gronk back. If they don't make a deal for a tight end, or if we don't, I hear all these rumors about them trying to trade for a receiver. I still like the receiver unit, and they're supposed to get N'Keal Harry back. And if they're really trying to trade for a receiver, it means, that they, unless they try to trade for a receiver and tight end, but it could mean that N'Keal Harry's not coming back. They're not trusting him, but I trust N'Keal Harry a lot. I like him a lot. And, maybe they don't want a tight end in this new offense. Maybe it's a little bit different offense that they're trying to run this year. Maybe they'd rather load up on the receivers. But I just don't, there's a lot of rumors, nonsense rumors about them going for a big-time receiver. I'm not really buying them. I see them going for something like this. And I would love this deal. Would love this deal here. Next trade, we got the Chargers and the Bills. Melvin Gordon for a third-round pick, and then people are overthinking things. I see people talking about Melvin Gordon's value, that he's lower than this, and I'm just not agreeing. I'm not seeing it. I think this is definitely fair. A third-round pick for Melvin Gordon. So he's going to be a free agent. We already know the Chargers don't really want to pay him. They definitely could pay him. His value could go down in terms of what he wants in money by the end of the year, so they can get him back a little cheaper than they thought. Or, maybe he's still not happy with them. He goes elsewhere. It's almost looking like he'd go elsewhere. It looks like that at this point, but who knows? Long ways away from that. So what happens if he signs elsewhere? He's going to get a pretty good contract for a running back. So what happens when the compensatory picks come along for the 2021 draft? The Chargers get a third-round pick. So they ain't going to give this guy away. People need to understand that. I know Chargers fans probably understand that. So maybe, bottom line, fourth-round pick for 2020. Maybe they think that's equal to a third-round pick in 2021. I don't really see it, but sometimes teams think like that. They rather have, right now, they rather have a pick. Whether it's a little worse than next year. We see some teams do that, never really agree with it. Usually happens within the draft. But this, to me, is even. Frank Gore's playing pretty solid. Singletary looks solid in his limited reps. I know he's been hurt. But what's the future, too? I think Gordon could be part of the future here. They can lock him up. They can afford to do that. I don't think they'll pay him the ridiculous amount that he wants, but they can get close, and I think that's a good deal. Because Singletary is not the every down back for the future. Frank Gore's gonna retire anytime now. So I would look out for a deal like this. The Chargers, the Bills. The Bills definitely need another running back there. You look at other teams. Possibly the Buccaneers. I don't know if they really have the cap space, but Melvin Gordon, the Bills, their lead back for the future. They sign him up. The Chargers, I would say third to fourth round at the latest they can get back. Maybe they want to equal that. Maybe they go for a future fourth and a fifth this year, something like that. Something similar to try to equal that third for this year. But that trade I like a lot here. The Bills definitely, because think about this with the Bills too. They're winning games because their defense. Let's be 100% honest here. They're winning games because their defense. 100%. They got some studs on defense. They're well coached on defense. They've been building that team through defense. At the same time, they've been building it through offense too. Getting Josh Allen, but they're not going to go beat. They're not going to go head to head with an offensive team in the playoffs because everyone in that organization is confident they're making the playoffs. You got to be. They're not going to go win anything. They can win one playoff game maybe. They're not going to go anything past that with the current offense they have. They need something else. They need some more juice. Receiver has been mentioned. They can go trade for a receiver. Very possible they could have traded Zay Jones because they're looking to go big picture. They're looking to go somebody bigger. Very possible. I think they like the receivers they got, so I didn't really have a receiver trade here for the Bills. Monitor their offensive linemen. Some guys came out in the Titans game. I think they'll be okay, but so that's something to look at. They need some kind of extra juice here on the offensive side of the ball here, so that's why it made sense. The Chargers don't really necessarily need him. They have Eckler, but they're also not going to give him away because they're going to get that third-round pick back in terms of a compensatory pick in 2021. You can't forget that. Next trade. This one I have heard nothing about. This one, I love this one. This came to my mind real quick. Made a lot of sense. The Falcons get a 4th-round pick. The Ravens get Vic Beasley in a 7th-round pick. Vic Beasley was a sack leader a couple years ago. That was really his only good year. He was dominant at Clemson. He's shown flashes of potential. He's coming to the contract year here. It's the contract year. He's slacking right now. The Falcons in general are slacking on defense. Here's my thing. I still like Vic Beasley. I like him a lot, actually, in the right defense. He's not in the right defense right now. Baltimore is the absolute perfect fit for him, and Baltimore needs another edge rusher. And that defense is over the last couple years is kind of known for, developing quickly some guys on the defense side of the ball, especially linebackers. And to me, Vic Beasley's an outside linebacker, which the Falcons used to use him there at one point. It's more of a DN now. A lot of dropping back too. I just rush him. Just rush him from the stand-up position. Fits the Ravens. Another one that tough to decide in compensation here, what they get back, because he has a lot of upside still. He fits the Ravens. The Ravens could use him. 4th-round pick is plenty to me, especially with him being on a contract year. They could, you could say if the Falcons kept him, they could get a compensatory pick back. It could be around. It's really unknown right now. 4th, 5th round, that would be a year from now too. So a 4th round goes to the Falcons. And the Ravens get Vic Beasley in a very late round, a 7th-round pick there. This trade I like a lot. I like the fit. I like the fit for Vic Beasley. Could revive his career. The Falcons, what they got on defense ain't working. In general, Beasley doesn't fit. They need to rebuild that defense. And there are some young guys that can be part of that rebuild. They're not. I don't think they're going to re-sign Beasley. I don't know if he's going to want to re-sign there either. So this trade I like a lot. I would love to see this happen. It just makes so much sense. Next trade. Here's the Trent Williams trade. Redskins get a 2nd and a 3rd rounder. Trent Williams and a 7th-round pick to the Browns. A lot of people, still think a first rounder could be dealt to the Redskins for Trent Williams. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible at all. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. He very well could be the best left tackle in football if he's on the field. And, if he gets traded, we're pretty sure he's going to be on the field. But he does have a little injury risk too. Keep that in mind. But right now, we're talking about leverage. He is not playing for the Redskins. Maybe we're going to hear some more news going forward because they fired Jake Gruden very recently. Maybe that's a problem. It's something with the medical staff, from what I've heard, for Trent Williams here. So that maybe it could make him happy that he gets the right coach in there, and they fix some things around. So maybe we got more to learn about this. But right now he's not playing, and he doesn't plan to play. Is a team going to go trade a first-round pick for a guy that's sitting around not being used? He really doesn't have a whole bunch of his value to the Redskins right now does not match his skill set. It just does not match. So I wouldn't trade a first-rounder. I think if a team offered a first-rounder already, and we know teams called, if a team offered a first-rounder, then the Redskins would have taken it. I don't think the first-rounder's happening. Second and a third, not far off, though. That's not far off. Second and third from the Browns to the Washington Redskins, and the Browns get Trent Williams back. The Browns desperately need a tackle. Another reason why they wouldn't trade a first-round pick is because it could be a darn good first-round pick. Pretty good lineman in the draft, too. So that's another reason. So this trade, in terms of the compensation, it works for me. This one works for me. It would be great for both teams because the Redskins are, the way I look at it, they're getting a free second and third round pick because this guy is not playing. I don't think he will play for them unless, like I said, with the coaching change, that changes something. And you cut cap, which can help you. So there's a lot of positives there. And the Browns, he will play for you, so he's definitely worth that, that value for you. So that's my take on that. I would love to see this happen as well because the Browns would be better like this. And the Redskins, they ain't going anywhere this year anyways, especially with him sitting on the bench. So it helps them for their rebuild. Bengals, Seahawks. Now, of course, right when I start to record this video, I see that according to Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, that they are not trading A.J. Green. But there's been a lot of rumors, so that's why this was involved. I sent him to the Seahawks. Seahawks seems like they're involved in any trade rumor. And especially at receivers, they definitely could be looking for another one here. Why not A.J. Green? His skill level is probably still, you may think a first-round pick. But yeah, he's getting up there in age. He's in his 30s. He does come with some pretty big injury concerns. So that's why no way for me, first round involved there. A second and a fifth worked for me. The Seahawks get the receiver, to help alongside Lockett and DK Metcalf. That's a pretty good big three. After that, they don't have a whole bunch. They got a couple other pieces that are decent, but they definitely can get better there. It can open up the passing game, but he's got to stay healthy. The Bengals, rebuild mode. They should be in rebuild mode. To me, I would trade him in this scenario because, he hasn't been playing much for you the last 2 years anyways because he's been hurt. Second and a fifth to the Bengals helps the rebuild. They can use that to drive more players, gain a bunch of players. They can use that to move up to get their quarterback of the future or, elite offensive lineman if they needed to be. So I like to trade for both teams, like it a lot. I honestly like it for the Bengals a little more. In my opinion, I like it for the Bengals because you're not going to win anything with A.J. Green. It's going to take how many more years to build this back up? Not an insane amount, but, A.J. Green's not going to be anything that special by the time you get it around. So I like that trade better for the Bengals. I've seen people talk about first-round pick. I'd say no way. I would run with that. Next trade, we got the Jets and the Rams. I've heard Leonard Williams could be on the trading block, and it's a pretty simple trade. The Rams may need to move some things around here to be able to afford him. Expiring contract, and it's not the cheapest one, obviously. And they definitely need, for the Rams, the reason for the Rams getting Leonard Williams, they definitely need somebody else in the D-line. They desperately need somebody else in D-line. It's pretty much everyone doubling, tripling Aaron Donald. Nobody else can really get through. They could use a pass rusher too, but I think more of a key to get Aaron Donald back going to that defensive MVP, status that he was at last year and is not at currently at this early stage of the season. You get another defensive lineman. Leonard Williams has been disappointing though, but I think they'll be confident they can turn things around. He'll be better with Aaron Donald alongside him. The Jets, 5th round pick in return. A little disappointing maybe because Leonard Williams was pretty darn good at one point and they had high hopes. But like I said, expiring contract, and he's been disappointing last year and very disappointing so far this year. The Jets also have replacements already set on that D-line, pretty good D-line. So that is what the value is to me right now. If he was under contract for a few more years and it was on the cheaper side, then it'd be way more valuable. But one more year, and it's not the cheapest. So That trade, Leonard Williams for a 5th-round pick made sense. I think both teams want to do it. Rams, like I said, may have to move some things around to make that happen. I just saw a extremely good fit there, and what would make the Rams defense. I think it's significant. Even though Leonard Williams has not been playing good, I think he can play a little better, and it can take a little stress off Aaron Donald maybe. So I like that trade there. Next trade, we're only on our 9th trade out of 24. The Cowboys get a 5th-round pick. The Chargers get Joe Looney, a pretty simple one. He's got experience at center. Pouncey's out for the season. The Chargers, and he's a backup right now for the Cowboys. They may, his value, where's his actual value based on his play? Maybe it's not even a 5th-rounder. But the Cowboys could have some leverage here because the Chargers are looking for a center that can start, and nobody's going to trade their starting center. Nobody is. So who has a backup center capable? Really only the Cowboys. So the Cowboys may have some leverage. They may be able to get more than this, really, but which is ridiculous, but very possible. But the Chargers definitely could use a center. They're trying to compete for things. They're trying to make the playoffs. They have talent to make it, but they're disappointing right now. They're trying to make it. They're trying to do something in the playoffs because Phillip Rivers doesn't have long. With Pouncey being out, he's definitely out for the year. It was a little scary injury too. So he's definitely out for the year. They need a center that can compete, that can play, and there's low risk to me on this, and that's why really the more I'm talking about, the Cowboys could demand maybe a 4th-round pick or something like that for this. So definitely a center I would look out for to be traded, whether it's the Chargers, maybe it's a guy that's capable of playing guard too, maybe it's the Chiefs. Any team that needs something, a center or a guard, mainly a center, I would definitely look out for Joe Looney for sure. And the Cowboys, like I said, may have some good leverage there with that one. Next, we got the Dolphins and the Titans making a deal. Kenyan Drake has been rumored, the last month or maybe more to be on the trading block. The Titans trade a 6th-round pick for Kenyan Drake. Maybe last year you'd think he'd be worth more than that. Right about now, that's about his range. What he's worth, of his value, I should say, because he hasn't played the best ball, and it's pretty well known the Dolphins are trying to trade him. Why the Titans? They have Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis. Well, Derrick Henry's a free agent after this year. I like Derrick Henry a lot better than Kenyan Drake. There's kind of a feel that Derrick Henry could be gone. He could be gone after this year. The Titans do have the cap space, but this definitely doesn't mean he won't be back. He definitely could be back. And Deion Lewis has been just terrible, absolutely terrible so far this year. Been very disappointing. So they get a guy in here that he's not not the best lead back. You definitely want every team wants a duo, and then get Drake in there, test him out, see if he's your back in the future. Kind of get a look for future, and it can help him now. So it's low risk there for a 6th-round pick. I think the Dolphins would really have no problem doing that. It could be a 5th-rounder, it could be a 7th-rounder, somewhere in that range. So Titans grab another running back there because. Not liking Deion Lewis right now, and Derrick Henry's a free agent after this year. Next trade, we got the Niners and the Broncos making a deal. The Niners get a 4th-round pick for former 1st-round pick Solomon Thomas. The Broncos also get a 6th-round pick with Solomon Thomas. To me, Thomas is a great fit in that Broncos defense, that Vic Fangio defense. Let's go back to pre-draft. Solomon Thomas. Everyone else is higher on him than I am. I was confused on why people were that high on him, but I still had a 1st-round grade on him. So this guy's going to live up to the hype. But here's the most important part. I had him, for me, listed as only a 3-4 defensive end. That he has not played 3-4 defensive end. For the Niners, he has played 4-3 end, and they shifted him inside, tried him at the D tackle position 2, 3 technique. Not working out so hot, obviously. 3-4 end for the Broncos fits it, to me, my opinion, perfectly. Vic Fangio type guy. The Broncos got some, they got some players on the D line, the guys that can play, but there's really not the best play coming from there. They can get better. You get a young talent here with the rest of the young guys they got, and they can make something out of this here. And it's tough. Another one that's tough to figure out what they would have to trade really, because he was just a 1st-round pick not too long ago. The Niners don't absolutely have to trade him. They're not needing to trade him. Keep in mind, but he hasn't played at the best. He hasn't played his best ball. So what's his value there? 4th-round pick. Felt a 5th felt too low. 4th felt a little high. So the Broncos get a 6th-round pick back. That's my value in my opinion, but it's a tough one because still got potential, but hasn't played to anywhere near that potential. So the Niners maybe could gather some of these picks to maybe they could trade of their own possibly, or to make moves in the draft, because they don't have a bunch of holes at all. They really don't have any holes. So in the upcoming draft, they can use picks to move up and get those stud guys to fill, where the area they think they can get better at. So that's why, they don't necessarily need to trade them, but that's why it made sense to me. And I love the fit there in Denver. Next trade, we got an interesting one here. Eli Manning to the Steelers. The Giants take Artie Burns. I do think it's realistic, but obviously it's a long shot. I've heard teams called about Eli. Nothing, crazy about to happen, I don't think. The Steelers were one of those teams. They could use the veteran guy. They have Big Ben though, but how much longer has he got? But how much longer has Eli got? I mean, Eli could be their starter for the rest of this year, and they can kind of just see. Let's put him in a better system. Steelers. Even though the Giants have a better record, the Steelers are just a better fit, better system for current Eli Manning currently, and a better offensive line too. So maybe he'll be able to play a little better. So I think it's one of those things where it's a low risk, possibly high reward, depending on what Eli's got left in the tank, which we don't think much, but low risk meaning they could trade a 6th, 7th, or Artie Burns. I heard Artie Burns on the trading block hasn't been too good at all. The Giants could use another defensive back, and that's why that trade, I put those together, kind of made sense, because out of the teams I saw that could be interested in Eli, the Steelers definitely made the most sense to me. So Eli for Artie Burns. Maybe the Steelers would have to send a 7th with this too. Quarterback that they would maybe be able to use versus kind of a bust corner. Maybe a little more valuable there, but 1 for 1. Interesting if that happened. Would be very cool. Next one. This one is a little out there. I don't expect this one to happen, but it came to mind. It came to mind when I was thinking about these trade scenarios. The Titans get a 3rd round pick, so we're back to the Titans, like I said, and we're back to the Chiefs too. We're going to loop back to some of these teams again, and we're going to go over every single team if we haven't gone over your favorite team. Chiefs get Roger Saffold. You may say, well, the Titans just signed Roger Saffold in this free agency. Very true, and that's why maybe it's a long shot. And another reason being because their offensive line's been pretty bad. You take him away, it may be worse. That's very true as well. But he has not been playing good, which he was kind of known as one of the best guards in football when he's on the Rams. You see the Rams' offensive line's a lot worse without him. So that's why it's a little weird. Titans may need a new offensive line coach over there. He has not been good, but I've seen some recent comments about, Saffold has said, kind of ripping his own team, talking about them. They've always been like this. They've never been consistent. They've always had these problems. So he's kind of throwing his team under the bus when he's not playing too good. So that's kind of made me think, maybe it's just not a good fit. Maybe it's not a good fit. Maybe they paid him a lot. I thought it was a good contract because I thought he was one of the better guards in football, maybe the best. Now I don't think that. When the Chiefs, obviously they wouldn't do this and Jalen Ramsey. Like I said, maybe corner's not their biggest need. Maybe it's guard because we've seen some injuries. We haven't seen the best play. And Saffold, no doubt in my mind, would be good on the Chiefs. I think he'd end up being good. They have the cap space, obviously, as we sit. It'd be well worth it for a 3rd round pick. At the same time, the Titans cut the cap space. They get a 3rd round pick. They're able to re-sign. They have a lot of cap, but they may need a little more because they have a lot of their key players are going to be free agents next year, and they, to take the next step, they're going to want to get some better free agents too. So this trade, to me, even though it's a long shot, it made sense. It made sense at the same point. The Chiefs get better. The Titans don't necessarily get better, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year anyways. I think their ceiling is kind of just making the playoffs. So they cut the cap. They get a draft pick. Maybe it's a 2nd round pick, but he hasn't really played the best, so far. Don't like his comments either. Next trade, we got the Dolphins again. We got the Saints. The Dolphins get a 6th round pick. They basically swap a 6th and a 7th round pick, and the Saints get Devontae Parker. So as you can see, Devontae Parker has very little value right now. So it's just a swap of a pick. The Dolphins get a little better pick. It could be a 7th round pick possibly from somebody for Devontae Parker. But Devontae Parker, you got to think there's something in there. There's got to be, in him. There's got to be, he's got to have a little more potential, a little more upside still. He was such a good receiver at Louisville, and who was his quarterback at Louisville is Teddy Bridgewater. That's really not why I did it. That just happened to be, something else that kind of brought this, made this make a little more sense. But I think the Saints need another receiver. There's a low risk in this one. Michael Thomas, one of the best receivers in football. He might be the best receiver in football right at this moment, actually, based off this year so far. Again, been solid. He's getting up there in age. Has a little, I guess, small injury, risk going forward. Traquan Smith, solid young receiver. You can use another one in there. They definitely can use more depth and a guy that can potentially get on the field for them. And then you can possibly sign him to extend him for a very cheap contract in the future, extend Teddy, and they got the duo there. But they definitely need another receiver. They don't need anything special. They don't need a superstar receiver, obviously. So just get a guy like this where it's a low risk cost here, and we know the Dolphins are willing to deal here for pretty much anybody, for any type of pick, I should say. Broncos again. Broncos get a third-round pick for Emmanuel Sanders to the Green Bay Packers. Devontae Adams is hurt, turf toe, and sometimes that could be one of those nagging injuries that the guys end up staying longer than you expected. We expected 1 week max. It almost sounded like he could play against the Cowboys, and the weekend came along, and he was definitely not playing, and now we're hearing that he's probably not going to play this Monday night against the Lions. And so not only that reason at all, you expect him back and healthy once he's back and healthy. After that, they got some receivers that can play, but they definitely can get better, and they're definitely trying to win a Super Bowl this year, and they're definitely on the right track, but they need another receiver, and you get a big play receiver in Emmanuel Sanders, a guy that I think that's a type of receiver they're lacking, a guy that can play in slot, play outside, shifty receiver, kind of a better Randall Cobb, who they're missing right now. And they send a third-round pick, and it's another tough one because he's got an expiring contract. His skill probably says second-round pick is his value, but he's an expiring contract. Because of his expiring contract, maybe you would say you don't have to give up a third-rounder, but they're going to lose him. Compensatory pick they're going to be awarded, probably a third-round pick, so you probably have to match that. And the Broncos, at the same time, he has value to them this year because you look at what they've done this year, bad record, but they've played some pretty good games. The way they're looking at it, their record should be better, so that means they're going to go out and win some more games, get that record better because it's very possible. Emmanuel Sanders can be part of that, so he could be maybe even more pricey than this. But I like the fit there, Green Bay. It's kind of what they're missing in that offense, and it would make them better. And it's only one piece to a receiver that's really, he's a good receiver, but he's not an elite receiver. But at the same time, it gives you that next step, big step for me, in my opinion. So I would like that trade for the Packers and the Broncos. I guess we don't know for sure, but it kind of looks like they're going that rebuild route, possibly. I mean, looks like they're starting to get better now. Another Broncos one, another Seahawks one. I made a post on our community section for our YouTube telling you guys I'm doing this video. I already have a bunch of trades. If there's any that you guys want to recommend, and if there's any I'd like, then I would use. And I saw multiple people say Chris Harris to Seahawks, and I liked it. And multiple people said it too. Because the Broncos, like I said, it's really their decision. Do they want to go that rebuild route or not? Maybe they're not. There's been rumors over within the last year about Chris Harris, maybe not happy, could get traded, but then it was kind of like he's not getting traded. Maybe he can come back up again when we get closer to the trade deadline. Maybe if the Broncos keep losing, he could be traded. He can play outside corner. He can play slot corner. He's best where I think he's actually elite as a slot corner. He's not an elite as an outside corner. He's elite in the slot, in my opinion. I know he's getting up there in age. So this was a tough one, too. I wanted to make this happen because people recommended it, and I liked it. These teams are weird with what draft picks they have. They're kind of missing draft picks in the right spots for me. So I was going to do a third-round pick, but the Seahawks don't have that. Second-round pick to the Broncos, and the Broncos had a load of seventh-round picks, so 2 seventh-round picks back, along with Chris Harris. The Seahawks missing Justin Coleman from last year. They need a slot corner pretty bad, and here's the best one in football here. So a second-round pick, though, goes to the Broncos. I think the Broncos would be happy to take a second-round pick here. It really depends, though. If they start winning and leading up to the trade deadline, they're, 2 weeks away or so. If they're winning leading up to that, I don't know if they're not going to trade Emmanuel Sanders. They're not going to trade Chris Harris, but if they're losing, yeah, it's very possible they do that because they may go that rebuild route and kind of give up on the year, sad as it is. That's possible. The Seahawks are always involved in these deals too. They're always involved. They would love Chris Harris. Another trade. We got the Packers back. We got the Chargers back. We're all over the place here. Josh Jackson, an interesting one. I like Josh Jackson out of Iowa a lot. He was a playmaking corner, and playmaking corners, and it wasn't lucky interceptions too. It was he knows how to attack the ball. I know a playmaking corner when I see one. The reason he's not playing Yeah, maybe not getting NFL defenses, but mainly you want him to be a little more physical and you want to be a little better in man coverage. That's the reason he's not playing. He's still young. He can still figure it out. But a playmaking corner and an Iowa corner, which the Chargers know a thing or two about those. Another sleeper a couple years ago, they get Desmond King, and he ends up being a beast. You get the Iowa duo back together there, and they definitely need an outside corner, which I think Josh Jackson is. I think he'll fit the Chargers, what they're trying to do. Like I said, they didn't need one. It's a playmaking corner. These guys don't really go away. I don't think he's going to be getting a bunch of interceptions if he's playing, but he gets his hands on the ball. He's got good vision. He knows how to read the quarterback, read the receiver. It's tough because the Packers just used more than a fourth-round pick on him just a year ago, but he's not playing for them. He played in the Cowboys game. He actually played his most. He's played really all year, but they're using guys like Shannon Sullivan more. So that's kind of when maybe his value isn't to where they drafted him. Fourth-round pick, I think the Packers would be happy about that. Seems kind of a lot for a guy that's not playing, though. But a fifth didn't seem enough, so send a seventh back to the Chargers. Made sense to me. I would like to see him with Desmond King in that Chargers, secondary. They need an outside corner, in my opinion, in the Packers. A team, like I mentioned for some other teams, they don't have a bunch of huge needs. You gather some picks together for the upcoming draft, and you package those to trade up to get the sure thing guy, the better guy, to make you take that next step right now, because you don't want a bunch of projects like Josh Jackson, who I don't know if he really should be a project, but right now for the Packers he kind of is. So I like that trade a lot. Next trade, the Bengals and the Cowboys make a deal here. Geno Atkins, I think one of the better D tackles in football. Maybe doesn't look like that right at this moment. Hasn't done a whole bunch this season. Hard to do that on a losing attitude team by the Bengals. The Cowboys, like they did last year, they made the big trade to turn things around, and it worked. And we've seen them really struggle to stop the run against the Packers. They just need another body in the middle there. They need another body, and if it adds more pass rush, that's obviously what they could use as well. But it's right up the middle, the D tackle position. It's definitely what they can use. So they go out and make this deal because they need him. They need a guy like this, and that momentum changer. Like we said last year, Jerry's not afraid to do this. And what's his value? I like Geno Atkins a lot. He is, 31 years old. The contract, some people may say it's bad. Some people may say it's good because, yeah, it's pretty pricey, but at least you got this guy locked up for a couple more years and you don't have to worry about anything. I think it's 2 more years. And, I kind of like it. First round pick won't. Maybe he can, if he's on the Cowboys, I think he can play in terms of his value being a first-round pick, but I just don't think any team would give that up. Second and a fourth there, and the Cowboys get Geno Atkins and a 6th-round pick. That puts them back, gaining momentum, back up top, makes the defense better. They can stop the run much better, which they really struggled to do, which pretty much blew the game besides the turnovers, mistakes on offense against the Packers. So that'll help them out a bunch there. Get him in there on the interior D-line. And the Bengals, once again, they're heading the rebuild route. They should be. They get more picks here. They get more picks so they can gain a bunch of new talent, or so they can package them, move up, and get the quarterback or whoever it is that you really want. You don't settle for the guy that's second on your board in terms of quarterback. You go up and get that number 1 quarterback on your board. Next trade, the Falcons and the Colts. The Falcons send Mohamed Sanu and a 7th-round pick to the Colts for a 4th-round pick here. Colts need another long physical receiver, in my opinion. They need a guy that can pair well with T.Y. Hilton. Paris Campbell hasn't been working out too good. Colts, another one of those situations. The Colts have some guys, they got receivers that can play. They're not, besides T.Y. Hilton, they're not the best receivers, though. You can get better. You can't be afraid to get better. The Colts won't be. I think they can be looking for a receiver like this. The Falcons, depending on what they're deciding, they may be. I think they're going to fire some people, to say the least. I think they could be. It's hard to go in a rebuild situation when you have Matt Ryan and a guy like Julio Jones, but they're going to try everything they can to kind of rebuild this quickly, a quick retool. So they could send Sanu. Definitely could be on the block. Send him over the Colts. 4th-round pick, another one of those situations where a 5th, if it was a 5th, it felt like a little more of a, too much of a steal. A 4th felt a little maybe too much, though. So a 7th back to the Colts, and they definitely can use something. They can use something like this. Sanu, I think, is what the type of receiver they need, because they could use some more offense. They could use some more offense, even though they recently beat the Chiefs because of their defense. it's a great win, big time win. You hope he scored a little more offense in a game like that. So they're going to need it going forward. I think they need a big body receiver here like Sanu. So I like this trade. The Falcons, it kind of helps them retool because even though Sanu's pretty good, he's not going to help them get anywhere. They have Julio and they have Calvin Ridley. So it's not like they desperately need him for anytime soon. Next deal, we got the Jets and the Niners making a deal here. The Robbie Anderson apparently could be on the trading block, him going to the Niners. The Niners could use a receiver. It's a tough one because they do have a good group of receivers, but they could use another one here. So Robbie Anderson to the Niners, a speedy receiver. They like their fast guys out there. Pair him with the other speedy guys on the outside. And the Jets get a 5th and a 6th, and you could say he's worth more than this, and I think his talent does say so. But you keep in mind, you got to remember and factor in that he does have some injury concern. He seems to be hurt, whether it's minor injuries or whatever, here and there. And it's an expiring contract. What I expect them to get in terms of compensatory, because that factor of him, he has a little injury risk. I think a 5th round, in terms of it matters what the contract they get in free agency. I think a 5th round, maybe at best a 4th round in 2021. So a 5th and a 6th. The Jets, to me, are still rebuilding. Yeah, they can win games now, but they're still in that rebuild process. They're not in the very beginning of it, but they're still in it. So they take the 5th and the 6th. Niners get Robbie Anderson. That's a good trade there for both teams, in my opinion. Unless the Jets have plans to re-sign him, and maybe they can get him a little cheaper. We'll see. Next trade, interesting one here. This is a big time trade here. The Redskins, more Redskins deals. They should be rebuilding. I think Jay Gruden was all for, playing the veterans. So you seen him with the quarterback. I don't think he wanted to rebuild, and that makes sense for a coach that wants to win right now. He doesn't have long. Obviously, now he's gone, so he didn't have long. And then I think the front office organization, they kind of want the younger guys in, possibly. I know they're still going with Keenum, but so they can actually make a trade like this. They get a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th. The Lions get Ryan Kerrigan and Adrian Peterson. Interesting. I heard Adrian Peterson was on the block. I heard the Lions. I heard the Rams could be interesting. I don't see the Rams actually trading for him, though. But the Lions, pretty much don't have much after Kerryon Johnson. McKissick looks pretty good as a weapon. They get him in there, tossing the ball, in the flat. Slip screen possibly, but they had another, strength back in Peterson. But the main thing here is Kerrigan. The Lions defense looks good. It looks good. Their pass rush looks pretty good. I mean, they're trying to contend here. They think they can win this year. Look pretty good. You get another pass rusher in there that I think fits Patricia's unique defense. I think it makes you that much better. It makes you that much better and helps you that much more. Ryan Kerrigan's still a very good pass rusher, even though very disappointing this year so far. And that's why the Redskins don't really get a first-round pick back. I don't know if anybody would trade a first-rounder for Kerrigan. Don't think the Lions would. But a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th, keeping in mind that Peterson's involved, I think is not far off from a first-round pick. So the Redskins, again, that gives them a lot of ammo to either draft a bunch of players to help their team retool or trade up for that one big-time player. And, they got Montez Sweat. They like him for the future. If they don't have Kerrigan, they're going to need to draft another young pass rusher, but I think they're okay doing that. And I like the fit of Kerrigan and Peterson on the Lions. So that trade, obviously a long shot because what's involved here, but to me, even if it's probably not going to happen, I think it's realistic. I think it makes sense here. I think there's some fits. Next trade, we got the Bears and the Raiders. A kind of a small trade, but I like this one a lot. I like it a lot. The Bears get Brandon Parker, offensive lineman from the Raiders, and a 7th-round pick. The Raiders get Nick Witkowski. Witkowski is a backup middle linebacker for the Bears right now. I think he's deserving of a starting spot. I think he's pretty good. We've seen him play against the Vikings. He's pretty good. I think he could start. The Raiders desperately would perfect out for the year. And anyways, even with that, they can definitely use another linebacker. Witkowski playing the middle linebacker spot in a 3-4 going to the Raiders. I think he can play that middle linebacker spot there in a 4-3 just fine. I think he also can slide out and play the outside linebacker spot potentially. He's going to be used kind of as a good blitzer if he's used in that way because he's a very good blitzer. But so the Raiders get him. They fill that hole they have because, like I said, he's starting caliber, So they fill that hole. The Bears, on the other hand, They get a late pick, but mainly it's Brandon Parker. And why I like this deal, the Raiders just drafted him last year. They used a high pick on him, and they started him last year at the right tackle position opposite of Colton Miller. And he gave up a ton of pressure. But what I noticed is he was very, very good in the run blocking game. Very good. To me, he's a guard. Brandon Parker is a guard to me, and I think he can be much better in pass protection at the guard position. He can also get better because he's very young. He also blocked for Tariq Cohen, don't forget, and back in college. And he's a hell of a run blocker at that guard position. The Bears need a guard right now. Kyle Long not playing his best ball at all. I think they're going to move on from him. They may trade. They may try to trade him. I don't know if they'll have any takers unless for it's real cheap. So maybe that could be involved somehow. But Brandon Parker, I think, could start at guard for the Bears. And you may say Witkowski, a little more proven. He's going to start for the Raiders. A little more value, and I agree with that. But Witkowski is going to be a free agent. The Bears have very little cap space for next year. They also have to try to sign, Danny Trevathan, re-sign him back. So they may have a middle linebacker situation, but maybe that could be a reason they keep Witkowski over Trevathan. So that would be a reason not to do this. But they get that guard they need. They also get a pick, in terms of the value of Witkowski's skill, maybe a little more. But like I said, expiring contract, the Raiders could potentially be getting a rental out of this. So that trade made a lot of sense to me. It's kind of a random one, honestly, but I like it. I like this deal for both teams a lot. Two more trades. We got the Redskins and the Texans. Redskins won again. The Texans getting Josh Norman here, the cornerback. Maybe not the same as he used to be, but he's still a solid corner, still an upgrade for the Texans. Only goes for a 5th-round pick. Why? Because he's not the same as he used to be. The Redskins aren't going to win anything this year, and you're dumping a lot of cap too. You're dumping some cap, so it's really good for both teams. This is, even though you're not getting a great pick in return, you get another pick. I expect the Redskins maybe to trade for multiple picks like I had here. Maybe not all this happens, but so they get the pick, they cut the cap, and then the Texans get their corner that can help them because, this is an offensive team. Defense hasn't played bad, but they definitely need to be better in the secondary, in the pass game. So they add a corner a veteran corner that knows his stuff, that he can play because he's an upgrade there. And Bill O'Brien, it's definitely a move he would make because really he's the GM right now. And this is a big reason why he shouldn't be the GM because he knows he could be on the hot seat. He could be on the hot seat. So he's trying to do everything he can to get guys that know how to win now, that can win right now because he may not have long if they don't win now. So that's why he is capable of going out and trading for guys like this. And that's why you need a GM. That's why you need two separate guys because a guy could get desperate, but it very well could happen here. Now, not that this is a huge desperation move. It's just something that he would definitely do. And I think it's good for both teams. Even though Norman's not playing his best ball, it still helps. It still helps the Texans. It helps the Redskins as well. Now, I went through 23 trades. We only have one more left. At this point, I came up with all these trades, and without trying to involve every single team. And then this is where I kind of had to stop. I was at a standstill here, and then I counted how many teams I had. Ended up with 2 teams left, the Vikings and the Panthers. I didn't really have a trade for them off the top of my head, so I'm like, okay, I got to do one more trade here to get every single NFL team involved. And I know there was Stephon Diggs trade rumors, and the Panthers could use a receiver, so that made sense. But I really, really don't think Stephon Diggs gets traded. I just don't think it happens. Just like the Odell rumors, Odell's not going to get traded. Just like the Von Miller rumors, Von Miller's not going to get traded. And the Mike Evans rumors, he's not going to get traded. It's just a no. It's just a no for me. So how do I involve the Panthers and the Vikings? And this is probably another long shot trade. Not a big trade at all, but this one made sense to me. And the Panthers is really Christian McCaffrey back there only. They definitely need another running back that can fit their system, that can catch the ball, that can run. Amir Abdullah. The Vikings got a load of running backs. They're keeping Mike Boone around for a 4th running back around for a reason. They do use Abdullah right now, not too much. So they can send them to the Panthers that can help them now. The Panthers also get a 4th-round pick. The Vikings are mainly Gary Kubiak, who they hired this offseason, was rumored to be very high on Will Greer. They had opportunities to take him, but they were rumored before the draft that they liked Will Greer. Mainly Kubiak liked him. And so Will Greer goes to the Vikings along with a 6th-round pick. Now, you may say the Panthers just drafted Will Greer. They drafted him a 3rd-round pick. True. So you get 4th round. Instead of a 3rd-round pick, which you just used him, you get 4th and Amir Abdullah, which you can use him. You're not going to use Will Greer right now. You're going to use Amir Abdullah. But Will Grier, he didn't look the best in preseason, honestly, and they have Kyle Allen and Cam Newton. That's all the duo you need right now. I don't see them moving on from Cam Newton. He just won an MVP, led him to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, or more than a couple years ago, but you get my point. They still like him, and they like Kyle Allen too. You got two, and I don't think Cam's going to get frustrated if he's on the bench for the rest of this year. If it goes well in the next year, then we can start talking about a trade. I think he knows he's got to get healthy as he possibly can be. So they got their duo. They're both easily better than Will Grier. Why the Vikings would trade for him is because, they have Kirk Cousins, obviously, but he's going to be a free agent after next year. I think it's kind of a low risk here to somewhat low risk. I know 4th-round pick's still a pretty good pick, but they're going to use it to try to see, they're going to, apparently, if this goes, if the rumors were true that they liked Will Grier, they're going to try to see if he can be the quarterback of the future. Sit behind Kirk Cousins the rest of this year, sit behind him next year, figure out if you have to draft one, figure out if you have to re-sign Cousins, figure out if you have to sign some free agent, or if Will Grier could be the guy, or a guy like that. So another one of those ones that's kind of a long shot, but for the reasons I explained, it kind of made sense. I tried to find a way. The Panthers, I think, could use a receiver. The Vikings could use a lineman. Panthers aren't going to give up any of their linemen. The Vikings ain't going to give up any of the receivers. They're a little short on them. They're not trading Diggs. They're just not going to do it. So this is the trade that made sense for the last two teams that I needed to involve to make every single team. The plan wasn't to have every single team. I was just going to think of every realistic trade that can happen. And then once I got through that, I only had 2 teams left, which was crazy. So I had to try to get them in here. So finally, we're through all 24 of the trades. Some teams use more than once, obviously, for good reasons. Let me know you guys' thoughts here. If you guys have any trade scenarios, throw them down in the comments. We also have plenty of other NFL content, recaps, power rankings, all kinds of predictions, more on the Patreon. Please subscribe. It would help us out a bunch. You get to see more videos like this all year long, not just during the season. Click that like button, turn notifications on. Check out that Patreon link in the description. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.